So welcome to our project demonstration for Scripture. It's a text and image generation software for advanced script writing and creativity. So we can move on to the about ourselves. Next slide. So this is our team. Satyajith can start.
I'm Satyajith. I'm a freshman at Berkeley, and I'm majoring in business as well as pre-med.
And I'm Arnav. I'm a computer science student at UCSC, also a freshman. And my experience with natural language processing is mostly through research and explainable artificial intelligence.
I'm a freshman at Berkeley majoring in computer science and econ.
Or I guess, so we're going to start with a demo and then go into the inner workings of the project. The demo will highlight a use case and then the functionality. So if you can stop sharing the screen and I'll share mine. So let's start with a demonstration that will cover both the use case and functionality. Let's say I'm a writer who is writing a traditional quest story, and I know that my hero is going to find himself in a cave. And I know that he's going to encounter some sort of creature, but I can't think of the motivation for an entire creature, its description, and its backstory. So I launch the scripture tool and type in something as simple as cave monster, submit. And after it's running a few models behind the scenes, it's going to output both an image for this monster and a description. And so here we go. It's as you can see, fairly realistic image of a monster, and then a rather good backstory for the monster. So it says it comes from a mysterious island. It's a little brown animal whose name can be translated to small cold thing, and it's a male humanoid, and it has a helmet with horns. So just like that, with a click of a button, I have unlocked an entire section of my book. I now have a description for my creature, which I can write about. I have a rough backstory for him, and now I can launch my writing based on this story and the background. I can generate an infinite amount of characters, an infinite amount of text, and it works for as much as I want, and it completely offloads the creative inspiration I need. So that was it for the demo. Let's go into the inner workings. All right. So Scripture uses a multimodal approach, which starts with Cohere's version of Stable Diffusion. It's as simple as inputting a prompt and then getting a text output, image output. We then take this image output and run it through an image captioning model called Blip. And finally, we take the text from the caption model and run it on a fine-tuned generative model, which Atharva will talk about later, which gives us our overall output for the backstory. We wanted this project not just to focus on generating a rough description of the character, but also a story for the character, as that's really important for writers. So we managed to do that with fine-tuning. To start off, we'll just talk about the implementation for Stable Diffusion, which was really simple thanks to the Cohere API. It was as simple as a JSON request. And as you can see, it was 3 lines of code. Originally, we were going to use Google Dream Booth for fine-tuning Stable Diffusion on data sets that we found. And the results were very good, but we found it was pretty hard to run locally. And so we ended up with this. And as you can see by the demo, the results are very promising. We then implemented Blip, which is an image captioning and visual question answering model, which works very accurately, as you can see by the screenshot of a demo that I took. It's very accurate for realistic images. For fantasy images, it's not as great, but it is still really good for our use case. And then Atharva will go on to talk about the generative part of our application.
Yeah, so now this is where we started implementing the text generation portion of the project. And for this, we used Cohere API's text generation functionality. And we inputted the caption generated by a Blip to generate like a background story for each of the images. So to ensure that the text generation was customized towards fantasy, we had to find a lot of like data about character backgrounds, and we stumbled upon a website that provided exactly this. It was a wiki of mythical creatures, and it had over 250 such descriptions. So we used Beautiful Soup to scrape the descriptions and format it so that it could be taken in by the Cohere API, and we used this data to train the model, and all of this produced our final project, which was shown in the live demo. So next, I'll hand it to Satyajith to talk about use cases.
Thank you, Atharva. So some use cases for Scripture, not only is it fun to play around with, but it has a lot of applications in mainstream entertainment with creative writers and creative teams. So it can be used from anything from film to video games to books. And we even thought about card games. Like, I don't know if you guys played Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, but I was big into it. Scripture makes static worlds more vibrant and rich. Writers have access to a large data set where they can draw upon a variety of characters and a variety of backstories to help with their world building and story development. Not only that, but Scripture reduces creative load on writers and developers. Recently, it's really hard for writers and developers. There's large teams in companies, especially such as Marvel, to create such characters and backstories for such characters. So it would reduce the cost of creative teams, and it would increase the efficiency at which they're able to create said characters. And some future development for Scripture, we thought about diverging just from fantasy characters to a wide genre of characters. This would create a larger market, and would also create a larger audience for Scripture. Not only that, we also thought about generating sprites with backstories. This would be 3D meshes, which could be used in video games as well as VFX. And this would have a larger application in film and TV shows. And finally, metaverse, which is an expanding area of tech, has not so populated worlds right now. So we thought that we could use Scripture and the idea of creating 3D meshes to populate worlds and create a larger user engagement. And this would also help streamline game and world development, with creators being able to create more sprites and more characters for their said video games or worlds. And with that, I think that's the conclusion of our presentation.